service, you know, in uniform, especially during time of war, was a tradition in my family as far as I was concerned. And so it was inevitable that I was going to serve. I was 19 when I volunteered for the draft. I was 20 when I went to Vietnam. I couldn't vote. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even lawfully buy a glass of beer where the drinking age was 21. When I was out of the Army, I applied and was ready to go to college. I applied to only one school, and that's Ohio University. ROTC absolutely belonged here. Once they found out about me and that I had some combat experience in Vietnam, they actually asked me to come in and speak to the ROTC classes, which I was happy to do, and I spoke to them for a couple years running about operations in Vietnam and some of those experiences. So, I mean, I was very supportive of the ROTC program. I may have had disagreements, but I never had any problems about any protests so long as they were not violent protests. I didn't respect nor defend violence from any perspective. But no, the right of the students to protest, and look, I mean, there were a lot of questions legitimately to be raised about the war in Vietnam. I raised many myself. It was out of their hands. I mean, nobody controlled it. The Vets Club was asked, would we be willing to serve as student marshals during this time? And of course we agreed. If it could be of some assistance, we said yes, we'll do it. And so we had armbands that identified us as students, but also as Vets Club guys who were there to sort of, you know, keep people from doing crazy things. I was in the middle of a lot of it. I was familiar with a lot of the kids on campus because I had seen them, you know, throughout the year or so. There were a lot of non-students in the middle of all this agitating because I never recognized them, never saw them again. So there were outside influences, but the students were going to riot. There were going to be protests. There wasn't anything that anybody in the administration could do about it. The National Guard was called in. I remember being in the middle of this crowd, and it was getting more and more rambunctious. Sure, some things were being thrown, and there were all kinds of insults being shouted at the guardsmen and whatever. And at one point, you know, the guardsmen were ordered to put on their protective mask, the gas mask, and they came down Court Street and they started popping tear gas. And I'm standing here looking around, and I've got all these, you know, a lot of these idiots running around, other just students who were curious and others who I'm sure felt strongly about whatever it is they were advocating. I said to myself, you know what, I'm just not gonna stay here and be gassed, you know, and so I just said, see you all, good luck and don't hurt yourself, and I walked off. And again, it was out of control and it was gonna happen, and that's pretty much the way it was at a lot of campuses around the country.